Hi there, homeschooling parents. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that is close to all of our hearts, and that is homeschool things we bought but never ended up using. So often, so many of us homeschool parents don't have spare cash to just throw around, and so it's really important to make wise purchase decisions. So this video today, if you watch all the way through, can potentially save you so much money, and it will save you from having a really cluttered house. And hey, who couldn't do without the clutter, right? Now, the first one I wanted to talk about are these fancy binders and organizers. And I don't know about you, but I go to my local Officeworks store and I look at the folders and I think they're so pretty. They're going to make my house pretty. And then I get home and I think, where am I going to store all these? And then I realized that I've spent all this money I didn't need to spend, and I probably only needed 2 of the binders, and now I've got lots of the binders, and it just creates clutter. So when I find that it's better off having a really close look at what curriculum or what things you want to put in the binder, and just doing a really careful stock take before you buy the whole shop of folders, because this is something that we definitely bought and have not used. The second thing we've bought but we have not used have been excessive workbooks and answer keys. So a lot of the time when you buy a curriculum, for example, you buy a really good curriculum like something like BJU Press, and they have the whole curriculum and you can get all of them, and these ones, the answer keys come with it. But a lot of the time, especially if it's really easy first grade kindy curriculum, you don't actually need them because you know exactly what the answers will be anyway. And so they're just a bit of waste of money. Or it might be an extra lesson review guide and you just don't need it because you think to yourself, well, my kid, he can do just the workbooks and the video lessons. He doesn't need extra stuff. And it just ends up being busy work and they don't like their education if you do too much of it. But if you do just the right amount, it is good. And some kids, hey, they'll really love that repetition. But in my experience, especially a lot of the traditional homeschool curriculum programs, it can be a little bit too much, and you really need to use your wisdom to make your curriculum flexible to meet the needs of your children. The third thing is teachers' manuals. Now, if you watched my video on first grade homeschool curriculum, you'll know I'm not a big fan of teachers' manuals. And that is because I think that they're just so time consuming. I think if you could do all of that, that would be fantastic. But honestly, as a homeschool mum, I have a little 3-year-old and I'm trying to homeschool Luke at the same time. It is really hard. And for me to sit down, I either need my child to have a course they can do independently or with a little bit of work from me, or I need a course with video lessons, which is what I have with BJU Press. And so I really don't like the teacher's manual thing. My mum used to use a Becker when we were small, and she used to get the teacher's manuals, and when I reminded of her, she kind of shuddered to think of it. I'm not a fan, and I think often new homeschool parents often make this mistake, and they go out and they're like, what do I need for the curriculum? Teacher's manuals, okay, they're really expensive. Do I really need this? Should I buy it? And they think, well, maybe there'll be a hole in my children's education if I don't. Often you don't need to buy it. Honestly, it's just so intuitive. You know what to do a lot of the time. There will be some things you miss, yes, but for the stress that you take out of your life, not teacher's manuals. Of course, that's my personal opinion. And if you want to get the teacher's manuals, go right ahead. It might work for you. So hey, just my personal experience with teacher's manual. Next on my list is specialty equipment. All that stuff where like, oh, my child is going to be a piano genius, a child prodigy. And we go out and we buy an expensive piano, and then we have to buy a dust collector because it collects so much dust. And then it becomes this very expensive furniture storage system we've got going on here, and quite messy to boot. And that's what we did. About a year or 2 ago, we went out and bought this piano. It cost about $1,000 all up, and Luke has not really played a single song on it to date. Yes, we're storing it, and he can use it later, but goodness me, I feel like we've maybe got this thing a few years too early. and we probably could have used the space, and now it's taken up by a piano that nobody really plays. Well, I'm playing piano, but let's be honest, I haven't played it for a week because I'm so busy making these videos. By the way, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We talk about a lot of stuff that new homeschooling parents need to know about useless things you can buy that you're never gonna use. The next one I have on my list is buying tomes, lots of books, these big reference books that you'll never use. Well, you might, flick through it sometimes, but honestly, so many of us these days have completely forgotten, our Wycliffe Bible library, dictionary, such and such, our big long reference collection, because we just look it all up online. And so I guess I would caution you before you bought something like this. Not only is it the money that goes into buying something like this, especially buying it new, but also the storage space. If you are low on storage place, it just becomes clutter, and that's irritating. Even if you're not irritated by clutter, chances are somebody in your family will be irritated with the clutter. We have lots of storage containers underneath the house because we are a small house and there's just no room on our bookshelves to store this extra stuff. And if we did store it inside, it would just be massive clutter. So that's why I would really suggest that you don't buy a lot of these things unless you're absolutely sure you're going to use it. Another thing we have bought but not used have been educational games and toys. Educational games and toys are a great way to supplement your children's learning, but sometimes we buy things that are just too simple for our kids and they get bored with it really quickly and they only use it once or twice, and then again it ends up something we've wasted our money on, it ends up extra clutter. But sometimes we can buy it too early and our child is just, they're not that advanced yet, and it ends up sitting in our closet for many, many years before they use it, cluttering up that area and taking up space that you can use for something else. Now, I have done that. I've been guilty of that. I bought Monopoly. I bought a cash flow game that Luke is way too young for. And honestly, it's going to sit in our cupboard for another 5 years until he'll be able to play it. And so I regret doing that. A really great thing to do is to borrow board games off other people in your life. So many of these people have board games they don't use, and you can just go ask them if you can borrow the board games, and then if your children lose any pieces in that, you can always replace it. But it's a whole lot cheaper than going out and buying board games that they may not use, and they may too. And if they do use that game, then you can go and buy that game for them after. The other thing is, before you buy a game, make sure you review it. Make sure you look at the reviews for it, because you could just buy it and then not use it because it's a bad game. Of course, this goes for a homeschool curriculum, it goes for workbooks, it goes for a lot of other things you're going to be buying for your homeschool education. Research it, read the reviews on it, see if people are raving about it. I did a review on Not Grass history the other day, and I did it because I noticed people were raving about the program because they love it. And that's what you want to see when you buy a board game or when you buy a homeschool curriculum. You want to see really good reviews because you know that you'll probably enjoy the program as well. It takes a little bit of extra work, but it is so worth it, and it will lead to way less frustration than if you bought a bad game and you regret spending all that money on it, and then it creates clutter, and then you're like, well, I could have got that other board game that was so much better. Now, some other homeschool things I bought but I haven't used have been craft supplies. Just a whole lot of these I buy and they just create overstocking, and then I have to find a place to store them because my child has not yet used them. And I find sometimes I have, an extra year's worth of supplies that are taking up a lot of space. The other reason I have so many art things is because I haven't taken an inventory, and I'll go, oh yeah, I'll see the paint on special and I'll go, yeah, I'll buy paint. I love paint. And then I'll come home and I'm like, oh, I already have 5 paint pots. What am I going to do with the rest? So make sure you take stock of your existing craft supplies so this doesn't become extra clutter. Now, there is something else that I should mention. It's a homeschool thing that I've bought in the past, but has just been something I have not ended up using. And these have been mega bundles. So these are, for example, huge bundles of homeschool printables you can get. And a lot of the time you buy them and they're often in really good specials, and you have so many good intentions to use them, but you just end up completing perhaps one printable of the page and That's it. And a lot of us homeschool parents, we really want to support these, particularly homeschool mums who make all these good resources, but often they're just too much on top of our existing homeschool curriculum. They can be a really great idea if you're homeschooling or you've got a really flexible homeschool and you do lots of that sort of stuff. But for me, I just want the routine of opening up a homeschool curriculum and my child sitting down and doing it. And then I just find all these mega bundles are just extra work on top of that. And the kid doesn't want to do it either. The other thing is that sometimes they don't align with your homeschool teaching style. They'll be teaching a child in a different way to what you've been teaching them. And that can be confusing or annoying or just not appropriate. And I think dovetailing on this is having a really good think about expensive online subscriptions that you get, and you see the sales page and they're like, wow, it does this and it does that and it does that. And we think, oh yeah, we'll use that in our curriculum. And then you pay the monthly fee and then you start going, actually, we've only used that a few times and this is costing a lot of money. And this is a homeschool thing we didn't use. So have a really good think about any subscription you're going to take. Have a think about if you're going to use it. I'm not saying don't spend money. I'm just saying spend it wisely. A good example of this is I got my son to start reading Eggs, which is a learn to read program for anywhere from preschool up to middle school age years. And Luke was really enjoying that. But then after a while, he lost interest pretty quickly. And then he wanted to do stuff that was offline. And so I ended up with this really expensive subscription for a year that I just didn't even use. And it was a big waste of money in the end. And to be honest, I wouldn't even use Reading Eggs now with my children because it has other issues. In fact, when that incident happened, I realized I have to be a whole lot more choosy with my curriculum than I've already been. And so I made a list of all these homeschool curriculum programs that I would be happy to use with my own children. And then I made a video about it, which is right here. So make sure you watch it.